Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Peace be unto you. Welcome to 2 Samuel chapter 23. There are 39 verses, and this chapter opens up on an emotional note, because it says here, these are the last words of Dawid. And I might get emotional here, but it says here, the words of Adonai, the Elohim of Israel, says here, faithful is Dawid, the son of Ishai or Jesse. Faithful is the man whom Adonai raised up. So we can see that his faithfulness was forever remembered in the records of Adonai. However, sadly, these words are not included in the Masoretic text. It just says David, plain David. The last words of David, David the son of Jesse, the man. He's not just any man, he's not just Dawid. He is faithful Dawid, and he's a faithful man to Adonai. I think it's a tragedy, personally, that these words are not associated with King Dawid. Dawid HaMelech, or David HaMelech, however you want to say it. Also, it says here, beautiful are the Psalms of Israel. So the songs of worship and praise are beautiful that Dawid had written, versus the sweet psalmist. And that's a popular expression to describe King Dawid, that he is the sweet psalmist. That's kind of ingrained in my mind, but it's not talking about him. It's talking about the psalms that he wrote are beautiful. In this context anyway. Verse 3. So that's a significant difference, just omitting the two faithful adjectives. Verse 3, another significant difference. It talks about Elohim, the Elohim of Israel, is his statement. He's saying a watchman out of Israel versus the rock of Israel spoke to me. So Elohim is saying the rock of Israel spoke to him, but it is a watchman speaking to him, and it speaking a parable which was omitted. I said among men versus he that rules over men. So the watchman is saying among men, how will you strengthen the fear of the anointed? So if you are anointed or appointed, but here it's saying anointed, how do you strengthen the yirat of Adonai, or the yirat of the anointed specifically? Versus he that rules over men must be just, ruling in the fear of Adonai, or I should say the fear of Elohim, not Adonai. So it's making a statement in the Masoretic that if you rule over men, you have to be just, ruling in the fear of Elohim. Now that's not false, the idea that is being expressed, but it's just not how it is actually written. In Septuagint it says, how do you strengthen the fear of the anointed? So that is the question being asked. And then we have the answer. In the morning light of Elohim, let the sun arise in the morning, from the light of which Adonai passed on, as it were from the rain of the tender grass upon the earth. Okay, that's a little mysterious. I'm not sure how to interpret that, but there's additions in the Masoretic of he shall be, talking about the, I suppose, is it the Elohim? Is it Elohim or the king? I'm not sure who it's referring to. He shall be. And then it says a morning without clouds was added as well, and then clear shining was added. It says in verse 4, ready, guarded. Okay, that's actually verse 5. Ready, guarded at every time. My house is not so with the mighty one, For he has made an everlasting covenant with me, ready, guarded at every time. Verses ordered in all and sure. A big difference, it says here, for all my salvation and all my desire. What is King David's salvation? Actually, it says for all my salvation, that's why he's guarded. And, separate thought, all my desire is what? That the wicked should not flourish. That is his ultimate desire. In this verse, anyway. The wicked should not flourish. What is his desire in the Masoretic? Doesn't say what his desire is. It says here, this is my salvation and all my desire, although he makes it not to grow. So that's sort of discouraging. So David's house is not growing, or is it the covenant that's not growing? Whatever the case, this is a contradictory statement because it contradicts that Adonai or Elohim is making an everlasting covenant with him and ordered in all things and sure, but it's not growing, so it's not flourishing, it's not growing. So that is a big difference. King David's desire is actually expressed as the wicked should not flourish, and we see that in the Psalms. We're going to see that later on when we get to the Psalms. But to say that Adonai does not make, whether it's the covenant or his house grow, is, I believe that's a contradictory statement and is not a good reflection upon the character and the reputation of Adonai. Verse 6, these are as a thorn thrust forth. Who are these? It says the sons of Belial in the Masoretic. But it's talking about the wicked, referring to the previous verse. These wicked are as a thorn thrust forth. Verse 7, significant difference. Shall not labor... Hold on, let me get my tongue untwisted here. A man shall not labor among them, versus the man that shall not touch them must be fenced with iron, and so on. So he's saying a man shall not labor among the wicked, and one shall have that which is fully armed with iron, the staff of the spear, and he, so this is omitted, the he part, he shall burn them with fire, the one who is fully armed. He's going to burn the wicked, and they shall be burnt in their shame, versus to be burnt in the same place. Verse 8 is another significant difference. It talks about Ishbosheth, who is the Canaanite, versus the Tachmonite. It also says here that he is a captain of the third part versus a chief among the captains. And it says the same, talking about the Tachmonite, is Adino the Eznite. So is it the same person? Could be. But it's listing the names of the mighty men. So the first one is Ishbosheth, and then it says Adinon the Azanite. So it seems that they are two different people, not the same person, as the Masoretic seems to imply. It talks about his sword versus his spear that was inserted. And it says at once. So he fought against 800 soldiers at once, versus he killed them all at the same time, in the same battle perhaps. Verse 9, addition of the Ahohite. It says went up versus gone away. Verse 10, salvation versus victory. And for the word rested, the people rested. The footnote, the footnote in the hard copy read as returned. So they returned behind to strip the slain. Verse 11, it says Theria. It's a place versus into a troop. Verse 12, rescued versus defended. It's one thing to rescue, to save, versus to defend. Verse 15, there's an omission of now the band of the Philistines, then in Bethlehem. So that's an important piece of information. Okay, so it's recounting that episode. Verse 17, it's a statement versus a rhetorical question. Okay, you can read that yourselves. You can see that continually throughout this chapter. Statements versus rhetorical questions made. Verse 20, an addition of the son of a valiant man. And then it says here, Kabasil, which is a place, versus Kabzeel, not a place but a man in the Masoretic. Describes as well sons of Ariel. Okay. Sons of Ariel of Moab. So 2 sons versus 2 lion-like men. So lion-like can mean heroic men. Now I know a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but some people may think, okay, 2 hybrid lion/men. So these are men that look like lions. Whereas it's an idiom which means that they're heroic men. Verse 21, wonderful man versus a goodly man. And it describes his spear was like the side of a ladder. So does that mean it's as long as a ladder, or it just looks like the appearance of a ladder? It seems to be the latter, because it says it's as the side of a ladder, not that it is the same length of a ladder, because that would be a very long spear. Versus in his hand. So it doesn't describe what the spear appears like, the appearance of the spear. Verse 22, continuous difference, talks about a name. So he had a name, reputation, versus the name. He had the reputation. Going to see that continually throughout this chapter. Verse 23, he was honorable among the 3 versus more honorable than the 30. So that is an interesting discrepancy. 3 versus 30. Reporter. So David made him his reporter versus over his guard. The footnote in the hard copy read, or gives us additional information that he was a reporter. Reporter means to hear, means to his hearings. So he was appointed to report. This is my understanding of it. He reports what he hears to David. So kind of like a spy, perhaps, or an inside man, reporting the things that are important to David. There's an omission of these are the names of King David's mighty men. Verse 24, there's an omission of his uncle. So that is, if you're looking at the genealogy, that's the relationship there. Verse 29, skipping over that. Verse 34, going all the way down there. 34 says, Machachait. Is this a typo? Okay, so let's look that up. Is it a typo? Okay, it's not a typo. It actually reads that in art. It reads Machachait in the hard copy, or Machachait. Say that 10 times fast. Verse 36, the son of much valor versus of Zobah Bani. And then that's it. Okay, so that's all for this chapter. Quite a bit to go over, but it started off on a sad note regarding King David and his last words. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Till next time, I bid you all Shalom Aleichem. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you. May the Lord bless you and protect you. And Maranatha.